Hi, I'm Sarah from The Upcoming. A real pleasure to be able to speak to you today. Thanks for taking the time. Maybe you could just begin with a brief introduction for people who don't know anything about Agent of Happiness. What can they expect? Maybe you can just give us an intro.
I'm Arun, one of the directors of Agent of Happiness. I'm a Bhutanese living here in Bhutan. Agent of Happiness takes place here in the Himalayan kingdom of Bhutan. It's about a happiness agent who goes around the country measuring the happiness levels of the society. And through him, we meet different people from several social classes in Bhutan, and we delve into what happiness means to them as well. In the film, we realize that the happiness agent himself is in search of his own happiness.
And I know you've been working together for quite some time. And, maybe you can tell us a bit about how this particular project came about. And I guess the fact that you're from completely different places. So, Aaron, you've kind of got the sort of inside of you, and Dorottya, you've got the sort of outsider's point of view. And maybe that has also, been a really a great attribute to the perspective you're able to bring to this kind of story.
Yes, exactly. Thank you for the question. I'm coming from Hungary, and I also live in Budapest. And actually, me and Arun, we met like 12 years ago in an international master program in Europe where we studied together. We were like 24 students from all over the world, and we were like, it was a European joint master, and we spent like 2 years together, like shooting documentary stories in Europe and working together. And actually that's where me and Arun met. And because we thought that we have a great communication and a similar vision, we would like to continue working together. So we already did a film in Bhutan. That was our first feature documentary, The Next Guardian, which was more like an intimate story. And because of the great collaboration, we continue to work on our second film, which is Agent of Happiness. And basically what gave the idea is the happiness survey that the nation conducts every 5 years, like measuring the happiness index of the society. And they use this data to influence and incorporate it to like government decisions and economical development. And Bhutan is famous for this gross national happiness idea that they try to like guide their economy in with like other factors than economical development, but to focus on more the well-being of the society. And we knew that everyone's first association of Bhutan is gross national happiness. And our intention with the film was to little bit depict a more real image of the country and see behind all these numbers and statistics that they publish every 5 years. And many times they say that it's the happiest country in the world, like a small Buddhist nation where everyone lives in harmony with nature. And we wanted to use this thought and idea as a starting point, and then dig deeper in the personal stories of people.
And maybe you can tell us a bit about the process of actually making it. I mean, this protagonist that we end up following, I feel like perhaps it was him and his personality, his character, which kind of led quite a lot of the tone of the film, and the fact that he is this kind of playful guy, quite self-deprecating. Obviously, there's this really kind of romantic ideal that he's chasing, which sort of sits in contrast to, him being this person going around measuring everyone else's happiness without really sort of fulfilling his own. So how did you first discover him? And how did that, again, set the tone for the rest of the film?
Yeah, I mean, we have a very interesting story of how we met Amber. We were actually, me and Dori, we were working on our previous film about 7-8 years ago, and we were filming with our previous characters, and then two happiness agents walked into that home, and they happened to be Amber and Gunaraj. So it's like then we met Amber by accident at that time, and we saw him doing the survey with other people. We kind of immediately fell in love with him because he was such a great listener. And like you said, he had this very self-deprecating humor, and we stayed in touch with him. We really didn't have the idea for that film at that time. We were still like working on a previous film at that time, and later when the idea for this film actually started evolving, we remembered him, and then we got in touch with him again. And then during that process, we started asking many questions, and then later we realized that he himself is in search of his own happiness because he was searching for love. So we thought that, oh, this is such a great premise for a film, because here is a happiness agent who is in search of his own happiness. So while we were out with him during the survey, we met a lot of people, but we also found a lot of people whose stories were resonating with Amber's own story. So we decided to dig deeper into their lives as well, and create these small mini portraits of different people whose stories were actually were associatively resonating with Amber's own life story.
And what I was thinking was, like how you've managed to capture these subjects. I mean, at some point I thought, is this scripted? It almost did at some, like obviously it's a documentary, but the way they sort of interact with the camera, how candidly they share their stories, it just seems amazing. So was that something that was quite intentional to create that safe space, gain their trust so that you could capture them in that really kind of wonderful way?
Thank you for the comment. Yes, actually, after many test shootings, we kind of developed a certain style and approach for this film, and I think we also needed to do that because this story was more conceptual in a way that that we travel with the agents, which could have a more cinema verite approach, but time to time, we conduct the happiness survey situation, which was quite repetitive. And also this survey takes place for a long time, like at least 3 hours. But since we also following the agents and with the purpose of filming, we conducted these surveys much longer because we also wanted to spend a bit of time with the families and the people who are giving the interviews, and also inform them about the process and why we would like to record their interview situation. And we gave also to the people the possibility to stop us every time if they feel that that the subject is too intimate, or they don't want to go, or they don't want it to be recorded. And because these situations were quite repetitive, we were able to kind of find the style and form to the cinematic approach. And what was also an important thing for us, that we wanted to work with this idea, and from all these individual happiness profiles, they conduct the overall score of the society, how happy they are. And then we also wanted to transform this idea into a cinematic form, and that's why you could see those portraits, like people looking into the camera, and then their happiness index appears on the image, to use that with a little bit of irony, that it's kind of an official government conducted questionnaire, and everyone becomes a document that they kind of store in the offices, and then contrast that to the real emotions and feelings when we step into the inner life of the people. So basically, that was our conceptual idea to build up the narrative of the film.
One of the beautiful things about working in this film was that while we were actually following the two agents, we were also finding many of our secondary characters. While during the survey itself, we were meeting really beautiful people. There were for example, 17-year-old Yanka. The first time the agents started asking her questions, it was as if she was waiting for someone to come to her home so that she could reveal her innermost fears and dreams to someone. And that way the survey was almost like a therapy. for her. So it's like we were meeting many of these of our secondary characters during this spontaneous encounters. So while we filmed the survey itself, we would return to them from time to time to film our portrait. So after the survey, we would go back and then we'd stay in touch with them, and then come back maybe without a camera. I spend a lot of time with them, and then build a relationship, and then so that they let us kind of enter into their lives and we gain trust, and then that was actually the process we managed with our secondary characters. And with Amber, of course, we have been friends for such a long time now, like both me and Dori with him, that it's like we are still in touch, and then kind of he shares his own most deepest feelings with us. And in fact, when we first met him, we didn't even know that he doesn't have a citizenship. Like only after we spent a lot of time with him, we were already filming with him. We were filming his search for love, his the scenes with his mother, and then one day he tells us that, oh, I don't have a citizenship, and we knew at that time that, oh, actually he also wants to tell this story of not having a citizenship. So it was a really long process of building a great relationship with all of our characters.
You know, in terms of what people can take away from the film, I guess by creating this kind of mosaic of all these different subjects and sort of, like you say, getting behind those stats, you know, what does this really mean, you know, and getting that bit of color of, you know, whether it's someone who's transgender and, you know, the relationship they have with their mother, subject who's, you know, living under that patriarchal marriage, but then has this amazing bond with the other women she's there with. So I think you can't help but reflect on your own life and think, you know, well, if I was taking this survey, what would I plot? How does my life compare to these people? But I do think there's an overarching sense of optimism, and maybe that is something that is actually turns out to be quite valid of a sort of idea we have about the Bhutanese people, that maybe in our own lives, we're much more pessimistic, even though we're much more fortunate in lots of other kind of socioeconomic ways. So what do you think people will take away from watching your film?
Yes, actually, this was exactly our intention, that seeing and hearing all these stories, it like unconsciously make you evaluate the thing of your own life. But I think what I learned from the people in Bhutan, and what I'm also trying to do in my own life, it's the acceptance that many times we are not in the present. We are worrying about the future, or like thinking about the past, and not being able to appreciate our own life, or always wanting to strive more, or chasing our dreams. And I saw the Bhutanese people being much more connected and grounded into their own reality, and appreciating all those relationships that surround us, and somehow accept the sorrows and the pain and the loss that they face in their life. And I think this is something that in the Western part of the world we often forget. And I think what is the conclusion of the film, that since we are human, and the universal experience of being a human, it's full of existential questions and loss and pain, but somehow I also felt that in Bhutan people has a much hopeful acceptance towards their life, and how they cope with their difficulties and drive their life.
Yeah, it's actually very similar to what Dori already said, that how you are able to, I think, and even me as a Bhutanese, like who kind of grew up in very rural setting, just like most of our characters in the film. While you grow up, you kind of forget the little small things that used to actually make you happy. So it's like, or give you contentment. So I think through our characters, we kind of I'm reminded of the little small things that actually used to mean so much to you at a certain point in your life, but then you forgot because you had bigger goals, or you started living in this very goal-oriented society, and you forgot to stop living. In the sense, I think in Bhutan, I think existing itself is a form of happiness. The fact that you exist as humans itself is a form of happiness. But I think in the Western society, sometimes you always have a goal. You always have something to achieve, let's say, and that is happiness. So I feel like for me it was going to these rural settings through our main character. It was for me a reminder of the things, the little things that actually used to make me happy.
And do you already know what you might be working on next? Are you collaborating again? Another film set in Bhutan, somewhere completely different?
Yeah, I mean, definitely we would like to work on something together, because it's like about 11 years now that we have been collaborating together, and become a bit of a habit. As you know, documentary making is a lonely profession, so you need a friend, and Dori is like my best friend, and then it's amazing to work on like creative things together. So we might work on something maybe in Hungary or in Bhutan, but at a certain point. But right now we are kind of taking a break from, because we worked on this film for the over 5 years, so we are still recovering from it. But we'd like to work on something.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for sharing all that with me, and I can't wait for everyone else to see this wonderful film, Agent of Happiness, and best of luck with what you decide to do next. Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Really lovely to chat to you. Thank you. Cheers.